Hi, everybody. My name is, again, Josh Kluge, Vice President of Revenue at Alert Communications. I've had the opportunity to work in the legal industry for the better part of 25 years or so. And I think one of the more exciting areas of the legal industry is actually what we're all here for, and that's the tort side of the business, the plaintiff side of the business. And as we talk about the intake process, we talk about maximizing the leads that are coming through. I think one of the takeaways that I'm hopeful that all of you recall and remember is, whether you want to admit it or not, on the plaintiff side, you're really a sales organization. And so I think the strongest firms that are the most profitable and have the strongest future in the roadmap really treat it as a business and not as a traditional law firm. So real quick, we're going to talk a little bit about, how do we find efficiencies, how do we streamline the intake process, how do we just, make sure we're as profitable as possible. But I did want to share one thing ahead of time. So when we talk about using systems and technology and kind of that side of it, kind of the people side of it sometimes can get lost. And so I want to actually start with a quote, and it's actually based on something that my grandpa told me years and years and years ago. So my grandpa, I'm from a small town in Wisconsin. My grandpa is one of those people who graduated high school and he's like 16 years old, and could have been, I think, just about anything, an engineer, a lawyer, whatever it wound up being, and just one of those most charismatic, just great people to be around. And when I would dig into, as I got older, dig into what was it about my grandpa, even when he had a stroke and could barely talk, he still had that, glint in his eye and ability just to engage with the nurses at the hospital and everything else. And it came down to actually a Dale Carnegie session that he went to when he was way back in the day. And Dale Carnegie, as you're all familiar, is his famous book is How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I think it's been published more. I think Bible is the only thing that's been published more than that particular book. And there's one quote out of that book that reminds me of my grandpa, reminds me of really what we do in this industry. And it's this quote right here. The only way on earth to influence the other person is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it. And so if you take a look at what the biggest bottlenecks are for a law firm for incoming leads, the two biggest bottlenecks that you'll find are those scenarios where it's a very attorney-centric intake process, where the attorney or an attorney from the firm has to take every intake and it has to be the one asking the questions, engaging in that process. And the other part of it is where there's not systems in place. There's a bottleneck if there's not some type of efficiency, software, process set in place to make sure that that customer, that prospect, potential customer is being followed up on. So those are two kind of foundational aspects of this. With that being said, when it comes to that intake process, that initial call, that initial chat to the website, the thing to remember is that is their first experience, obviously, with your firm. And it comes down to what is the brand that they saw on the website, what's the brand that they've kind of heard from other marketing sources that they've seen or referrals from other people, in the person that they're talking to. Are they, and ideally, it's a specific intake person, if you can do it, that is what they're focused on. That's their one job or primary job, so they're not balancing a bunch of cases while they're doing the intake. But they're asking the right questions, the appropriate questions that make sense not only for the firm, but are showing a sense of care for the person that's on the other end of the line. And again, that being able to build that quick relationship on the phone or even just live chat makes all the difference. The other aspect to that then is making sure that, hey, if you do miss a call or if there is a follow-up, that there is that follow-up and that clear automated follow-up. So when we talk about having an automated follow-up system, what we find is a lot of times firms will just take whatever kind of scripts come with a software, they'll just kind of stick with that. And it sounds like it's a script that just came with the software. It's very generic and doesn't connect with the people. And so when we talk about humanizing, the intake process and trying to get that retainer signed, it's being able to, whether you're leaving a voicemail, and maybe it's an automated, we actually do it at Alert. We actually have our clients, one of the attorneys, record a message, and then we drop that into the voicemail. So it's the actual attorney. It's not just, hey, I want your business, but I'm checking in on you, see how you're doing, how you're feeling. Love to, learn, talk more about your accident, about your issue, about, everything, whatever, their particular challenge is. Same thing with text. Instead of just a text saying, hey, call me, being able to bring some lightness to that as well, too. And the last thing I'll say to this before I hand it over to Tobi is, there's those situations where obviously it's not a good fit. It's a lead that came through and it's not a good fit for your organization, but how you treat that person still matters, because maybe they don't need your help because you can't help them in that specific area today, but are they going to come to you later? Are they going to still talk positively about your organization, about your firm, and how you made them feel and how your organization made them feel? Because if you I think the statistics are, if somebody has a good experience, they tell 1 to 3 people, hey, I had a really good experience with ABC firm, or when I bought my car at this dealership. People have a bad experience, especially in the digital age. It's 20 plus people. You can't wait to tell somebody like, oh, I called so and so, I worked with such and such organization, it was horrible. And then you extrapolate that in the digital side of things, and it's much easier for potential clients and clients to go across the street digitally as well too. So with that, I'll hand it over to Tobi.
Thanks, Josh. I hope you won't mind that I'll stand up, mainly because one, it makes me feel taller, and two, as a trial lawyer, I can't sit still. So I'm Tobi Millrood from the law firm of Kline and Specter, Philadelphia, and I chair our mass tort department. And I've been doing mass tort business for almost the entirety of my 30-year career. And it's unbelievable how much the industry has changed over time. But for all of you that are in the room that are thinking of ways to improve and perfect the business of law, if I asked all of you the best case that you ever had in the office and how did you get it, I'm guessing that almost with all of you, it would have come from a personal connection. Maybe it was someone that you yourself knew, or it was an individual case that came from an individual referrer. And why were those cases the best? Those cases were the best because of the personal relationship that existed. It allowed you to peel back the layers of the onion and really understand that case. And so, when I saw the topic was maximizing lead conversion and streamlining intake, at first I thought, those concepts are a little bit counterintuitive, because on the one hand, if you're going to maximize lead conversion, the best way you can do that, as I think Josh pointed out really well, is through making the process personal as you can. But when you make the process personal, it's hard to streamline it. So I want to share with you today how we've been doing it in our office, how I've been doing it for a long time, but I think I've gotten closer and closer to perfecting the system. We right now have a lot of mass tort projects, but the largest project that we have is the Roundup litigation. And we have thousands of clients. And we have a lot of cases that come through the door from a lot of different sources, be it referrals, be it direct into our law firm. And so every single day we're confronted with how do we maximize the conversion of getting that person who's interested or was placed with our law firm and converting that to know that it's a criteria case. And it all starts on the front end with, are you able to make this a personal connection? Now, I presume if you're doing a mass tort case, that your starting point is your criteria. You got to know, does it check off the boxes that says this is what the case should look like? In my own opinion, I think too many attorneys in this space start and end there. This is the criteria. Does it meet the criteria? Great, then it's a case. That is not how you're going to maximize your lead conversion. You're not going to maximize your lead conversion by just checking the box. The way you're going to maximize your lead conversion is invest the time and the quality on the front end to personalize that process. Now, how do you go about doing that? Well, if you're working with an outside company, you need to create on the front end that relationship that if they are your surrogate and they're collecting the information on the front end for you, you have to dictate what that script sounds like, you have to dictate what that process looks like, and you have to ensure that the way the lead conversion is going to be maximized is that there's empathy on the front end. I say to my kids all the time, the #1 motto in life is know your audience. Whether you're in the courtroom, whether you're in the business of law, you have to know your audience. When you think about who your audience is in lead conversion, your audience are clients who believe they've been injured by the product that you're going to represent them for, and they're likely not trusting on the front end. They've already been hurt. They distrust whoever did this to them, and what they're looking for is trust on who's going to take their case. And what they're willing to do to find that out is they're willing to shop. You all know this. I mean, we all know the problems of dual reps. How does that come about? That comes about because our audience today is shopping. And so one of the first things that we have to overcome with lead conversion is we have to recognize that our audience needs empathy. They need someone that's not going to treat them as a number. They need someone that's not going to play a robocall and say, what's your name? Where do you live? How long were you exposed to the product? Great, I'll have someone get in touch with you. They're very likely to reach out to somebody else and have a much different treatment. There's a lot of people in this space that do this kind of work. There's a number of them in this room. I saw one of the people that I do work with in the back of this room is Howard Naster. He's at intake desk, and Howard's been sending me a bunch of roundup cases. And in the front end, I asked Howard, hey, what do you do? I want to make sure that I'm satisfied that there is empathy on the front end. And he said to me, well, we do about a 60-minute call. I said, a 60-minute call? Are you serious? He said, yeah. I'll walk you through the whole process. We do a 60-minute call. In the middle of the call, we transfer the person over to somebody else. We verify the information a second time. We do another layer of quality control. And, you know, we have tremendous referral partners. One of the things I notice that comes from a lot of the intake desk cases is a very, very high conversion rate. And I'm guessing, my intuition is because there was empathy that started on the front end, because the time was taken with the client, because there was personalization. And there's lots of other referrers and referral partners and lead generators and referral partners that do similarly. That's one example. But I think the difference and why the lead conversion works so well is because that personalization, that empathy on the front end. What we've done in our office in the last couple of years is, I think, a little bit groundbreaking. It may not work for every office, but all of you work in a market where presumably somewhere near you is a law school. And these law students want nothing more than a law firm on their resume to say that they've worked somewhere, that they get a little bit of experience. And so what we've done to streamline the intake process is we've created a whole category of folks in our mass tort team called law fellows. Most of them are law students. You probably can recognize that the law students are probably going to be able to work for you at a very different and cheaper rate than a lot of other work that may be done for you on the front end. Some of them are just happy to intern, again, to put it on the resume. So we train our law students, the fellows, we train them on the whole intake process, and now what we do is whoever referred the case into us, the way we maximize the lead conversion is at the end of the call on the front end from the referral partner, they say, great, Thank you for all of the information. Within the coming days, you're going to hear from another member of our Kline and Specter team, and they're going to follow up with you. So now this is the key. Ultimately, if we could every time, the best way of maximizing lead conversion would be a warm or hot transfer. You know, when you're dealing with volume, when you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of clients, you can't just take a call on every single one unless you had dozens and dozens of employees ready to take that warm transfer. So what do we do as the best way of modifying the inability to do a warm transfer on every single call? Again, we have our referral partners say within the coming days, there's going to be another member from the Kline and Specter team that will reach out to you. And then our law fellows, we alphabetize it and we break it down as to who's going to call who. They follow up. I know you've spoken with other members of our team. I want to verify some information. I want to tell you a little bit what to expect in the coming months ahead, and I want you to have a name should you need to reach out. You can reach out to me or any of the folks on our team. That call takes 5-10 minutes. And the staying power of the clients in our office because of that personalization on the front end and then on the back end with our law fellows has changed the game, has really changed the game. Because they didn't just feel like they checked some boxes on the internet, they did a criteria call, they said, okay, yeah, I'm this, that, the other thing. You all know this. You all know that problems on the front end with clients remain problems all the way through the case. When you know that on the front end the client is complaining about the intake process, they're going to complain about the litigation process, they're going to complain about the settlement process, they're going to complain about the lien resolution process. What can you do on the front end to reduce or increase, I should say, the compliance and relationship with the client? You personalize it. You make sure that someone's there on the front end. Now, I think someone else said earlier, it might have been Josh, it might have been the prior speaker, preferably that would be a lawyer. But if you don't have a lawyer, the person just says, I'm a law fellow with a law firm, and I can provide you all the answers I think you need today. If you have any problems, I'm happy to escalate it. The number of clients that ask to escalate it up to an actual attorney is less than 1%. 99% of our lead conversion and intake is done between the referral partners and the law fellows. So regardless of whether your mass tort volume is going to be small, medium, or large, it's food for thought for you to consider trying this on. Get a couple of law students in your area. They benefit by putting your law firm on the resume. You benefit by having eager, ambitious people who are ultimately looking to get a job somewhere down the road anyway, who are going to personalize and give personal attention on the front end. That I'm going to kick it back to Josh, and I'm sure we're going to talk through some of these issues maybe a little bit more at length here.
Yeah, really, really good stuff, Toby. And I'm thinking of, so I live in the Twin Cities area, the flyover states, Minnesota, Wisconsin area, and it just reminded me of how many of my friends went to school, law school in the Twin Cities. There were more attorneys per capita in the Twin Cities than I think anywhere else in the U.S. So I'm just like processing, like, oh, we can get some more intake folks from from there. So thanks for the idea. No, the question I actually had for you, Toby, is as far as the law fellows that love that idea. When did you all start doing that? How did that kind of come to fruition? And what do you look for when you're hiring those folks?
It was actually a little bit accidental. Tom Kline endowed the Kline School of Law, which is Drexel University School of Law in Philadelphia, and the dean of the school said, Tom, I'm wondering if you can help. We've got some really, really bright students who are having a hard time finding a job. Yeah. And Tom realized that he wanted to have the benefit of these students coming from a university that has his name on it, getting a job. We'd benefit by having their work. They'd benefit by having a fine firm on their resume. And so it almost started accidental. And we just started out with a few law students from Kline Drexel, and then it's expanded over time to a whole bunch of area law schools. We're very fortunate in Philadelphia that we have a bunch of very fine law schools in the area. But that's how it all got started. It was almost accidental.
Sometimes those are the best accidents right
Yeah.
there. And what are you looking for? So, I think there's kind of different schools of thought on this that folks have, but when you're looking to bring an intake person, whether it's law fellow or otherwise, what are you looking for? You're looking for legal knowledge, you're looking for personality, you're looking for kind of soft skills, experience. What do you think stands out?
Organization.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think that one of the things that our law fellows were struggling with for a little bit was they weren't getting the people on the phone. After they said, someone will follow up with you from Kline Specter in a few days, and then they would try to reach out and they weren't available. And then the number of people that they had to reach out started piling up. And so we meet every 2 Fridays. We have a meeting with the fellows every 2 weeks, and we go over things, and we look for a strategy how to help that end of intake. And what we did is all of you have some type of calendar software. It might be Calendly, or Microsoft Office has a product. And so what we do is we ask the client, whether it's by text or email, we invite the client, will you schedule a call with us? And so the fellows will now schedule the calls with the client. That's another way that you can really streamline the intake and at the same time maximize lead conversion. I highly recommend using calendar software and inviting clients to do it in that way. It will definitely help the lead conversion, because instead of calling constantly and getting no one answer. By the way, I learned this recently, maybe this is known to a lot of you out there, but if you have remote employees or folks that are not using your normal trunk line off of your law office, depending on the phone carrier, it may show up in your clients' homes as a spam call. And so that's a lot of the reason why sometimes our clients aren't picking up the phone and we're failing in the lead conversion. Now there's little ways that you can get around that, but one of the best ways of getting around that is calendaring the appointment with the client. It's another way of personalizing it, that, I have an actual calendar appointment with somebody from the law office. All of that comes down to organization. Organization is key.
Love it. That's awesome. And then one of the other pieces, and this is big for our organization at Alert, is the tracking, the reporting, in that aspect of it. So I'm kind of curious. I'm curious to this because so many firms just look at, hey, here's how many cases we signed up, but they don't necessarily look at, here's the cases we didn't get, and understand why, and try to kind of peel the layers of that onion. Do you all kind of dig into that at all, as far as how you can improve your rates?
So, I mean, everyone in here has some type of case management software. Our policy is everything that comes into our office that we keep or don't keep, the data is taken down. So we're able to track, there's various kinds of software that you're able to track what the conversion is of, who the calls came in from, where they came in from, did it convert, did it ultimately, what's our rejection rate, what's our acceptance rate. All of that comes down to obviously setting up the customization, your categorization in your case management software, staging it. And once you have the stages, you can, of course, run reports on those different things. That's important to track, because you got to figure out what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong.
Right. Absolutely. Really, really good stuff, Toby. So we only have a couple minutes left here, so I did want to open it up. Are there any questions that you all have in the crowd? Anybody want to be the brave person? Late afternoon, raise your hand.
One of the things that I would also say when you're doing lead conversion and you're interviewing perhaps the law firms that are going, or the lead generators, the companies, I encourage you to ask them what kind of software they have that is going to track the data that comes on. Again, not to single out, sorry if I'm embarrassing you, Howard, but in the intake desk, if you've worked with them, then you probably know their product, Tort Vision, that when the cases come over to you, actually transparently on both sides, if a referral lawyer gets cases through intake desk, and then we receive them as the law firm that's going to work them up, both sides see, what is the breakdown, what was the information that was supplied at intake, what was the amount of use, what were the years of use, what was the injury. Through software, that they probably developed personally, for their own customized, but there's other software that's available. It will give you the complete data stratification of what the breakdown is. That's really helpful, not only on the front end for seeing the quality and the kinds of cases that you're getting, but also down the road, it's going to help you identify which cases to put into litigation, which cases might be suitable for bellwether treatment. So data is another part of what's king on maximizing that lead conversion. And when you go and speak with the vendors out here and you maybe try on for size someone to say, how do you send cases and what kind of information? Ask them what platform they use, what kind of data do they take on the front end, what kind of data can they supply to you? Will it have information that will allow you to transparently see the information that's coming in through that intake? That is also going to up your lead conversion.
Yeah, I mean, data is king, especially with AI and as that's progressed. At the same time, we obviously one of the things that Toby and I touched on quite a bit is the personal connection and humanization side of it. So, yes, data is absolutely king. So then there's obviously the black and white data of what can you take away from where you're getting your leads, how good are those leads, being able to track and record. I would suggest even recording the intakes that are being done. It's the whole idea of kind of trust but verify that your folks are, in their mind, they might be, super empathetic and asking the right questions and not just being a robot going through it. But in reality, that's the proof. So setting up your intake folks for success, not only from the process, but that ongoing coaching and development and making sure that they're, bought into the overall process as well, too. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, when, and I think Toby actually mentioned this before too, but at the end of the day, when somebody has basically is able to build a connection with your firm through that initial intake, and that credibility is built, and then their credibility can just kind of continue to increase and ramp up as you're actually practicing law and doing the case, as you're actually, potentially in front of a jury, or kind of going through the actual cases themselves, and it's really that initial catalyst to really kind of get that momentum going. And there's other instances where, I think you all have probably experienced this, where that intake process was okay, and they got hired, but it's not that same flow to it, which means you're not going to have the same referrals, you're not going to have that same kind of wins in the end there for your overall business.
So our time is almost up. I just want to say that the great part of coming out to a conference like MTMP is I think we build on each other's ideas, and I didn't get to this place just completely on my own. So I encourage, if any of you want to find out what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me on intake, on lead conversion, feel free to grab me during the conference. I'm always happy to share notes with you, and have a great conference. Thanks for having us today.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.